Welcome to my Write With Me session number 20, part of my Write With Me series here. I'm working currently on, I'm checking my notes here, on Island Dawn, a romance series in the Maui Desire Series. This is a destination series romance where people escape from their world only to find a new world they didn't expect. Right now I'm going to be working on chapter 27, where the main characters continue to move through the challenge of the house they both didn't expect to inherit, and they've already gotten together and enjoying the experience, but facing the challenges of working on a house that's worth a lot of money. So, on with dictation. I'm going to be recording in iOS, just the voice record app, and then I copy the transcription out and put it in to my editing software, just Scrivener. And then, by the way, I have Moonlight at Wailea. If you want a free ebook, just check out the link below, and you can get a free romance to have an experience to see what the adventure of Maui is really like. So, on with the show. All right. Island Dawn on Maui, Chapter 27. Mara sat on the lanai, enjoying the cool morning breeze before the day warmed up, working with her laptop and her cell phone, taking care of a human resources issue and going through a meeting. As she sat there enjoying her coffee, looking over the landscape that was now hers and, she thought, ours, really, she wondered what it would be like to be here for a long time. Though she missed Seattle dearly, she knew there was nothing really tying her down. Her world was simply full of boxes in her college roommate's house, and Stephanie had been very good to her. She had paid rent and not been a problem. As she took another sip of coffee, she watched the Zoom call go along with a dozen heads all chatting at once, and she looked at the chaos of what she was trying to manage. Over her headset, she heard her name. Mara, what do you think about that problem that Jonathan brought up? She quickly glanced down to the screen and kept her eyes locked and realized she'd completely disconnected from herself. Trying to make something up quickly, realizing she hadn't paid attention, she made something up real quick. Well, I think that Jonathan's issue really needs a greater investigation because we want to make sure we eliminate any short-term implications plus any long-term problems. That seemed to placate everyone just fine, and they continued chatting amongst themselves, her boss working through what Jonathan was facing. In her mind, she said, "Whew, boy, that was close. I really need to focus on what I'm doing instead of watching the yellow birds fly around their nest." Just then, she heard some clattering inside the house, and she clicked the mute button while still focusing. She yelled out, "Hey, Dean, I'm on a Zoom call, so don't walk out here totally inappropriate." She heard some laughter echo from inside the house, his voice booming through and then floating out the screen door. She heard the coffee machine running and heard him pull a mug from the cabinet as he slowly tapped it shut. Looking back at her laptop, she enjoyed what she was doing. She told herself it gave her good grounding and income and the ability to stay in Maui and be able to afford doing what she was doing. But she looked at the beauty of this place, the view of the ocean in the distance, with the wave salt spray flying into the air, slowly being blown away by the morning trade winds as they floated along. The palm trees swayed back and forth, gently the palm tree fronds swayed back and forth, gently swishing and brushing the air as she watched a couple of seagulls swirl in the distance. She thought about the seagulls of Seattle that she was so familiar with, their squawks, their calls, their chaos as she walked down at the waterfront. And then she thought, do I really want to go back home? Watching the meeting, she continued to focus on what was going on so she didn't get, so she wasn't caught unexpected. This time when her boss asked her a question, she clicked on mute and was able to answer it with a much more detailed analysis of what was really going on. That seemed to keep everyone happy, and she was able to provide valuable insight for what they were facing. Near the end of the meeting, Mara's boss asked her to stay on afterwards, and she said no problem. And when the meeting was finished, she stared solely at her boss's face, magnified 3 times too large on her iPad or her laptop. Mara, how's it going? I'm glad you were able to add some value to this meeting. I know it would be good to have you in here every so often, but I know your abilities definitely outweigh the problems of commuting back and forth. How's it going in Hawaii? Actually, really good. I'm working on the house with the guy that we're, and she paused for a moment, trying to figure out what to say now that they'd slept together. She didn't want to say boyfriend, but she didn't want to put herself in an awkward position. As soon as she saw her boss squint her eyes for a moment, then open them back up, her boss said, "Oh, I see. It's good you've got somebody to work with there, and I'm really glad that you're able to get on these calls. I know it's super early for you." Mara shook her head and said, "Oh, that's not a problem at all." She picked up her mug, a brown Kauai mug emblazoned with the island's shape, and she thought for a moment, why do I have a Kauai mug when I'm sitting on Maui? She disregarded the thought and took the sip and told her boss, "I really enjoy this ability, and it's kind of nice here. I'm always excited to get online and start work, even though it's 4:30 a.m. Her boss looked around over her shoulder, even though she was in her own room, and said, "Well, I'm really glad for you. It's gotten the ability. Some people just did not handle working remotely, but you have stepped up to the occasion, and we can't wait to advance you through the ranks here and give you more authority and responsibility." "Gee, thanks," Mara said, almost hesitantly. Her boss didn't clock it through the Zoom call, but instead ignored her comment and said, "Okay, well, we'll have a meeting in a couple days, and we'll talk soon, okay? And please get that report over to me as soon as you can, so we can get these the short-time staff expanded to full-time, okay?" "Sure thing," Mara replied, and before she could hit the leave meeting button, the app closed, and she saw that the meeting was cut. Sitting there for a moment, she thought about that call, how she had been distracted, but the feeling of Dean last night and the way he made passionate love to her kept replaying over and over in her mind. She tried everything she could not to compare Dean to Trevor, their different styles and their approaches, but the feeling was just... She shook her head. "No, not better, just different," she said to herself. Dean whispered outside through the screen from the inside, "Hey, are you done with your meeting?" Her eyes opened wide as she came back from her fantasy, and she glanced over her shoulder. Oh, yeah, sorry. The meeting's all done. Great. Dean popped outside and saw that she had a cup of coffee already, and he had a steaming mug with the Starbucks Been There series for Hawaii. And he took up a seat next to Mara, looking at her laptop for a moment, and asked her a Zoom call, getting things done. She rubbed her eyes and tasseled her hair and said, yes, these early morning calls are honestly kicking my butt. Even though I told my boss I'm really enjoying them, they're starting to wear on me. When we're staying up late, fooling around. And with that, she turned and winked at Dean, who smiled widely at her. And then she looked back at the laptop. However, this is just an HR job. I love it. But we have a property here that's got capabilities that I had no idea after that appraiser stopped by yesterday. Dean sat for a moment, creaking the chair back and forth, looking up and down the deck that they had partially refinished, at the rail that still needed work, at the split column holding up one corner of the roof, and he said, well, there's a hell of a lot to do here. I think our condos are both up tomorrow, right? At that, she started and said, oh, crap, you're right. I haven't talked to the manager or anything, and she needs an answer like this morning. What about you? The same. Not to be awkward about it, but last night was incredible. I hope you're okay with it. She immediately said, oh, more than okay. Let's do that again soon, shall we? With that, Dean chuckled a hearty laugh and stood up. We're going to need breakfast here pretty quick, but I think as long as you're okay with it, why don't we just let our condos go, and if something happens, he trailed off for a moment, letting his voice get lighter, that let's just say nothing happens and we stay here and save a lot of money that we can put into the house rather than paying for condos. At that, Mara's voice brightened and she said, that's a great idea. I was thinking about that earlier, among other things. She looked up through her brushed brown hair that kept flopping over her one eye. She pulled it back and draped it behind her ear and said, I really would like that, honestly, in a hesitating voice. I definitely don't want to pay for the condo, even though it's really nice. Not when we have a $5 million property to live on, even if it does need some work. She reached up behind her head and chipped a flake of paint off and looked at it for a moment and then laughed. Okay, maybe a lot of work. At that, Dean and Mara went back inside and began cooking up breakfast, talking about what they were going to do for the day. Soon after breakfast was finished, Wes and his crew showed up and they began debating what to do. Wes mentioned, hey, by the way, one of the outbuildings also has damage on the roof, and I know that storm's coming soon, maybe in a couple days. It's moving really slow across the Pacific, but it looks like a walloper. It's not a hurricane, but sometimes these tropicals do more damage than anything I've ever seen. Mara and Dean both looked at each other. Damn, really? I didn't think the roofs were that bad. And Wes nodded and said, sorry, I had one of my guys go up and take a look, and it's not that it's completely falling apart. It's just the shingles are damaged, and he found a couple soft spots. So I don't want to worry you, but it looks like a lot of these are going to need help. I know I saw the appraiser, Jack, stop around. Mara's eyes open. You know Jack? At that, Wes looked between his guys and then gave them the sign to take off, so they headed back and grabbed their tools and walked through the jungle towards one of the outbuildings. And Wes looked at her and said, I know Jack. I've known him for a long time. This is a small island. Look, there are no secrets here. Everybody knows that you two are, I don't know what your finances are, but it's a lot of property for two people coming out of nowhere. With that, Dean looked at Wes and told him, well, we definitely appreciate the massive amount of work you do and the cost savings that you've done for us. We're okay on finances for now. We definitely want to upgrade this property, but I'm betting you talked to Jack. Wes glanced over his shoulder and looked around as though someone was listening, and then looked back and he said, yes, he and I had beer together, and of course, everybody talks around here. And he paused, not wanting to say it. And Mara concluded that we need a hell of a lot of effort and money to bring this place up to snuff to get the real value out of it, right? She put her hands on her hips, but smiled, not being aggressive with Wes. How she could be aggressive with him, she wondered, wasn't possible. The man was the size of a bear. She couldn't do anything to him if she wanted to. And he said, yes, there's going to be a lot of money burned. I mean, you guys are really good at the work. And I think what we can do is we can do the work to protect the buildings. And then you guys, if you want to save money, I don't want to put myself out of business. He paused, biting his lip. But if you want to save money, a lot of hammer swinging would do good. I don't know what your work situation is. Mara thought about the meeting she had to get up for at 4:15 this morning. She brushed her hair, put a dash of blush on, and put some mascara on to make her self look presentable without showering. And she said, actually, the work thing's going out just fine. No problems here. What about you? What about you, Dean? He shook his head. I've got Angela tearing up a storm. I mean, she's called me on a couple things, but things other than that, I don't have an immediate project, and we're pitching a couple others here. So I'm actually pretty free for a while to keep swinging a hammer on this place. Wes shrugged. All right, well, you two sound like you have it in hand. Let's you let me know what you want to do. We'll keep chipping away. Why don't you guys, if you want to clean up and then head over to the main granny cottage, I'll show you what's going on. They separated, and Wes made his way over there. As soon as he was out of earshot, Mara shot Dean a look and asked, so he knows exactly what the property is appraised for and what's going on? Dean walked back inside without answering for a moment, leaving her outside, coaxing her back in, and she walked in, expecting an answer, and he turned around and said, this is not Seattle. I mean, I don't want to lecture you, but everybody knows everybody's business. It is definitely a different world here. He wasn't aggressive in his voice, just a strong reminder. She thought about it for a moment and began getting irritated, and then he looked at her with an intensity of his eyes, and then she began calming down and said, I'm sorry, I guess it's a total different experience of Maui versus city life, isn't it? Dean nodded, walked up to her, held his coffee cup away, wrapped his arm around her waist, squeezed her against him, and gently raised her forehead as he planted a kiss on her lips. They held there for a moment, and then separated. And she said, well, I think we've got some work to do. I've got some spreadsheets to get done and some reports to take care of. Do you think you can work with those guys after whatever you need to get done? Dean laughed. No problem. I've got Angela on the tear. She's getting stuff done. I'll probably have to do something this afternoon. But past that, let's keep swinging hammers. They spent all day working through the house issues that Wes has explained, and Mara brought over her laptop and began punching up the numbers. She whistled out loud as Dean came over, and he looked at how high the repairs have gotten. He's like, good gosh, the burn rate's worse than California. Burn rate? Mara looked up at him. Don't you use that burn rate in HR land with how much it costs? Oh, burn rate. Yes, but we don't have these kind of rate prices here. Exactly. They finished looking up the spreadsheet, cleaned up the house, and headed over to work on the house and help out Wes and his crew. There we go. Okay. Let me see how long that dictation session was. 20 minutes. Okay, and that was chapter 27, and I'm going to copy over the transcript from iOS Notes here, and I just select the notes in the voice app, nothing special there, and copy it, and wake up my laptop. And then drop it in, and that was 2,767 words. Sweet. There you go. You can read the number. Oh, don't want to drop my laptop. But right there. So, I'm continuing to march on Island Dawn on Maui. It's part of the Maui Desire Series. This is part of my Write With Me series of books that I'm writing, so you can see what it's like to have somebody dictate and you get a sense for it. And maybe you like to do it yourself or prefer to do the typing thing instead. My name's Aaron Linsdau. I write these romances under the name Aaron Belsing here, where you can find me at aaronbelsing.com. But you can also find my thrillers and nonfiction books at aaronrlinsdau.com. Please check out links below in the description and in the comments. I really appreciate you watching to the end, and I appreciate your support. It means so much to me to keep me going. Give me comments, give me ideas, point things out. I really appreciate reader feedback and viewer feedback. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.